everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so happy to have you here today. In today's video, I am going to teach you one of my favorite methods for applying really large decals like this one. This decal is 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches, so it's pretty big. But what's cool is this method can also work on small decals as well. It just makes it easier for you to line things up, leaves you with less bubbles, and it is called the hinge method. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now be sure that you're subscribed here, that way you don't miss out on any of the fun crafty content that we have coming and all of my favorite tips and tricks. First thing we're going to do is upload our image into Cricut Design Space, and I'll link the image that I used down below, but I'm going to click upload and click upload image, and then I can drag or drop or browse for my file, but I like to drag and drop. I'm using this one called Come On Baby, and you'll understand it in a second. It says, "Come on baby, light my fire," and it's a little grill. Now, one thing I want to point out to you is how blurry this looks right now on screen. Don't worry, you'll see that once we load it into our canvas, it's not going to be blurry. This is just something that's wrong with Cricut Design Space. I'm going to click continue. It'll still look pretty darn blurry, but because this is an SVG, we don't need to do anything to it like removing backgrounds or anything, but you can definitely change your image name. So I'm just going to change this to "Come on baby, light my fire." That way I know what it is. And then you can add keywords like barbecue, picnic, backyard, round sign, whatever you want to do, add those to your tags. And you can also add it into any of your collections here if you want to. Then simply click upload. And now, like I said, it's going to be really clear here on screen. It's just something that's going on with Cricut Design Space right now as to the issue with them not having the proper, I don't know what's going on, but it's just not giving us a clear image. Now, the wood round that I'm using is going to be a 10-inch wood round. So I do want to reduce the size on this a bit. Now, I could go exactly 10 inches, but you'll notice this isn't fully completely round. You'll notice that you do have a little bit of a taller design. It's not a full complete round. So I do want to make sure that this is just slightly under 10 inches. 10-inch wood rounds are not always exactly 10 inches, so going just a little bit below is fine. So you'll notice that the width is going to be a little bit different than the height. Now, if that does bother you, you can always take a look and see if it'll look okay if you make them the same. So I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to change my width measurement to match my height measurement and just see if that looks weird at all, if it like stretches it out too much, but it doesn't. So I think I'm going to go ahead and make it a completely round design. One thing that I want you to know is that sometimes, even though this says that it is going to fit on a 10-inch wood round, sometimes it doesn't. So I like to make a template, and I'm going to show you why this isn't going to fit. The words are going to be a little bit bigger than you think they're going to be. So I'm going to make a 10-inch wood round template using a circle. I'm going to change the color on this, and I'm going to make it light blue. And then I want to send this to the back so it's behind my design. Then if I take my design and my circle, I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to align them, and I'm going to center them. Do you see how some of these words on the edges are actually bigger than 10 inches? Then you can size this down so that it fits within the 10-inch wood round. So sometimes you do need to make a little template so that you can make sure that it fits. So I'm going to go ahead and center this just so I can, again, make sure it looks good, make sure it looks like it's going to fit. I think that looks perfect. But again, you can kind of see this isn't a perfect circle, which is why even though I made those measurements, it doesn't always fit. So definitely double check with a little template that you can make. Now, I'm pretty happy with that sizing. I think I might want to go just a teeny tiny bit smaller on my wording. I want just a little bit more of an edge to it, and I think that looks good. Now, what I can do is I can either delete the circle or simply hide it. Then I want to save my design, and I'm going to call this barbecue sign, and click save. Once this has saved successfully, you can go ahead and hit make. Now I'm going to be cutting this on a adhesive vinyl, so I don't need to mirror it or anything, but I wanted to show this to you before we moved any further. Do you notice how everything is all mixed up and messed up? All the letters are everywhere. The grill is all apart. There's a reason for that. If I go back to my design, you'll notice here that it's grouped and it's all these individual layers, which means it's going to move around if you don't do a step. Now, you can do this one of two ways, actually three. You can either just simply attach it and that's going to hold it together. You can also use weld under your combine options, or you can also use unite. That's all going to hold it together so that now when we hit make, you're going to see that everything will be on the screen held exactly in place. I wanted to show you what would happen if you didn't do that. That way, if you ever run into that problem, you know how to fix it really easily. So now that we're ready here, like I said, we don't need to put this on mirror. We are going to cut this on to adhesive vinyl. We're going to weed it and place it on to our wood. I'm going to be cutting this on the vinyl setting using StarCraft HD. So let's head over to the machine, get this cut out and weeded, and then we can apply it to our wood round. I found a larger wood round, so I was actually able to make this 11.5 large. So I'm using some StarCraft HD. I'm going to use the glossy because that's what I found, and I'm going to place this on my mat. Now this is going to be a larger piece of vinyl than I actually need, so I can just hang what's left off the bottom and then I can trim it off when we're done. So this is going to cut out our design. It's going to take up a ton of this mat, and then I'm going to weed it and show you how to put it onto your wood round. Now our next step is to put some transfer tape on. So what I do is I'm using some medium tack transfer tape. I might need to trim a little piece of this, but that's all right. I'm gonna pull this out and I'm going to place my design face down on this. Now, one trick is if your transfer tape roll keeps trying to roll back, take your scissors, stick it inside. It'll hold it nice and straight for you. And then all I'm gonna do is lay this down onto my transfer tape. All right, now like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and trim this little edge off just so I can save that chunk. That's a good chunk to use for later. And then I'm gonna trim off over here. Now I'm gonna take my squeegee and I'm gonna burnish this from the back. And I'm just gonna press down. And I want to go kind of all around it in all the directions, making sure they get all the way to the edge. All right, I think I'm good. Once you've burnished, don't take your backing off your design. I want you to grab the wood that you're using, and then I also, I'm going to trim this a little bit. I'm going to kind of trim around the edge a little bit. It's going to make it easier for us to line this up. So I'm going to trim really close into the edge. This is definitely not necessary, but for me, it helps to get it lined up. So you can see I'm just trimming pretty close to the vinyl all the way around. Make sure you don't cut it. And then I'm just gonna trim, trim, trim. And like I said, I totally messed up the H and the T here on light. It's okay, no big deal, not the end of the world. So now that I have this trimmed, it's gonna be easier for me to see where it is centered onto our board. Now you can prep your board any way you want. You can paint it, you can stain it. Just make sure that you seal whatever you do to it with some like polyacrylic or a triple thick clear spray, something like that, because that's going to help you keep your vinyl nice and neat. But since I'm just doing this to show you how to do the hinge method, so I've got a little piece of dog hair on here. There we go. Okay, I'm just showing you how to do the hinge method. I didn't prep my wood in any way because I don't really care. So what I'm going to do is make sure this is centered, and once I'm happy with where that's at, grab some painter's tape. You want to get a nice long piece of painter's tape, and I want you to place it across your design. Now you can move your design around. If for some reason you're like, you know what, that's not centered, I'm not happy with it, you can move it before you do this, no big deal. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take and fold this over. And I want you to remove the backing from the vinyl. So I'm just gonna kind of peel this off. And you wanna take your time. All right, now that I've got that peeled off, hold this down on one side, and I kind of cross my arms to do this. And then you're going to get under the vinyl backing, and I want you to trim it off on this one side. Now this is definitely one method to do this. There's several methods. If you have a different one, let me know down below. I'd love to hear about how you do this, but this is the way that I learned. So I've trimmed that off now. I'm good. I'm going to take this half of my design and I'm going to carefully lay it down onto my wood. This is great for these larger decals. It really helps avoid any bubbles in them because you can lay it down kind of little piece by little piece. Now you can take off your painter's tape, and honestly you can reuse this again on another hinge method. So a lot of times I'll take it and put it on the side of my desk and I'll save it for another time. Now you want to do the same thing over here where you're going to remove the backing from your design. And you're carefully going to lay down your design. Now you can use your squeegee if you want to kind of help you lay that down, that design. You can use your hands. You can kind of use whatever works for you. I've got just a little fuzz right here that I just want to make sure doesn't get stuck under the vinyl. This is the joy of having like cats and dogs and all of that. You sometimes get little dog fuzzes. All right, got the dog fuzz. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and press this down. Now I just like to use my hand. And then we'll go over it with the squeegee, and that's gonna really give it that stick. So I'm just gonna go over all my pieces and parts here with my squeegee. Now I do have a little bump right here, but that is a bump in the wood. That's not a bump in like a bubble or anything. These are just a couple like imperfections in the wood. I've got one right here too that I knew was there. So we've got a couple little blobs, but that's all right. Nobody's gonna notice them. So we'll go ahead and make sure we've burnished this on all the sections. Once you've done that, what you're gonna do is peel back your transfer tape. You're gonna wanna take your time with this. Now again, had I prepped my wood, this would be a lot easier. But since I elected not to do so, I may need to go a little bit slower. But if you prep your wood, you should have no problems. And honestly, it looks like it's sticking just fine. So you're gonna go ahead and peel that transfer tape off. You can see that I've got it folded over at a really sharp angle. It's like pretty much flat on itself. And then I just peel it back little by little. A little spot there that I kind of wanted to lift. And I just sort of work my way down the design, keeping that transfer tape super sharp to the like angle here. And you can definitely change the direction you're going if you need to. And like if you have a little piece that pops up, just go ahead, press it back down, use your hand to help you. I may just not have burnished that part real well. And we're just gonna get this all off. And voila, you have now just done the hinge method. This method works on large decals and small decals alike, so you can do it however you want with whatever size, but it's a great way to make sure that everything's lined up. It really helps with bubbles. It really makes a difference when you're using it. If you have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Be sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.